Hello everybody and welcome to Chess 24. We are live and we are going to be covering round 2 of the Bilbao Masters and the European Club Cup, which happens to be in Bilbao at the same time. I'm Lawrence Trent. This is Jan Gustafsson. He's a Grandmaster from Hamburg. He's much younger than he actually looks. Or is.
I think it's the other way around.
Are you?
I look 21, but I'm not.
You're not 21?
I'm not 21.
Right. So you're older than you actually are.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
Yeah. He's a great player. He's going to help me dissect what's going on today, aren't you, Jan?
Well, we got some interesting games today.
We do.
First of all, in the Masters, which is going to be our focus, we got the Spanish number 1, Francisco Vallejo Pons, playing against former world champion Vishy Anand, who had a great start yesterday, beating Ruslan Ponomarev with white. Today he's facing Paco Vallejo with the black pieces. Their score not as one-sided as you might think, but Paco has never beaten Anand in a tournament game. He only lost 2 with a lot of draws, but he's never won. And then we have the other matchup, Levon Aronian with white against Ruslan Ponomarev. We've talked a lot about the slump Levon Aronian seems to be in. Has not been himself ever since Vike in January, really.
Yeah.
But he also has never lost to Ponomarev, beat him a couple times. They're very old rivals. I've seen some games from the Under-12 World Championship. Yeah. And even then, Ponomarev was the bigger star, but Aronian had his number. He beat him in these junior tournaments. He beat him around 2000 when Levon was only 2,530 and Ponomarev was already approaching 2,700. So Aronian has a good score against Ponomarev, who lost quite a bad game yesterday, or not terribly played, but he never really got into it and was quite nicely outplayed by Vishy Anand, who keeps playing very well. He hasn't played a tournament game since the candidates, but another convincing victory yesterday. Really does look like we're going to have quite an exciting World Championship match at our hands very soon in November. Absolutely. Anand against Carlsen.
Can't wait for that one. But for now, we've got these 2 games. Those are very interesting. And then we've got the European Club Cup, where, for me, Jan, actually, it's one of the tournaments that I wish I would play in one day. It looks like a great tournament. Lots of strong players. In fact, pretty much everybody bar Carlsen is there, right?
It is a super strong field, also the depth, not only the names. You got your Caruana, Nakamura, Svidler, Mamedyarov, a lot of the big guys. But also if you look at how many of the top 100s are playing, because there's 6 players per team and there's so many super strong teams. So this is really one of the big events. And today I think we have some of the top teams clashing already, right?
We do. I mean, one of the big pairings that stood out for me is the top board. You've got the team I can never pronounce properly.
Sokar?
Not Sokar, their opponents.
I don't know, it's a team from Moscow, SHSM.
SHSM. They have got Nepomniachtchi, Morotsevich, Dreyev, Grachev, Dubov and Potkin. That's a serious lot. That's a great team, right?
Those are all solid grandmasters, even if you don't know all the names. Nepomniachtchi and Morozevich, I think, very well known all over the place by now. Nepomniachtchi was the surprise 5th sport for the Russian team in the Olympiad. A lot of people were expecting Yakovenko or someone else, but Nepomniachtchi made the team. No one did that well at the Olympiad for Russia, as we remember, but he actually finished 3rd at his board, kind of did his job. And he's top board today for SHSM, rated 2710, playing against Mamedyarov, who, if I'm not mistaken, is either back in the top 10 or at number 11 at the moment. I think our friend Anish Giri, who also happens to play in this tournament, snuck in. And guess what? Anish Giri is board 4 for Sokar Azerbaijan.
This team is an insane team, Sokar. Mamedyarov, Topalov on board 2, 2784, playing decent chess, played well at Sinkfield. Kind of was up and down at Sinkfield, but produced some good games. Adams, Mickey, you can always rely on Mickey. Giri, Rajabov and Wang Hao. That's just, what kind of a team is that?
That's a bit of a powerhouse. That's one of the 2 top favorites, together with the Italian team, whose name I can never pronounce. Who's...
Obiettivo Risciarmento. That was terrible. Risarcimento. Obiettivo risarcimento.
Those guys, they have Caruana Nakamura, who's not playing today, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who's also not playing today, and then the French stars Bacro, Fressinet, Kirill Georgiev, he's not French, followed by the young Italians on board 6 and 7, I believe, Vocaturo and Dverny. That's another really, really serious team.
And they're playing against possibly the biggest force in European Club Cup history, the Grantham Sharks. Peter Roberson, board 1. Tom Rendell, board 2, and Ben Burton, board 3.
Those friends of yours?
They are friends of mine. I spoke very briefly to these guys earlier today. What an opportunity. Peter Roberson, he can't wait to play against the number 2 in the world. Obviously, he hasn't got huge expectations, but he's rated 2,400 now. And you never know. You never know. You can cause an upset still. Tom Rendell, solid international master, good friend of mine, known him for years. He's playing back row. And then Fressinet, well, Ben Burton, he's outrated by a good 600 points.
Let's face it, there's going to be a one-sided.
It's going to be
no offense to your friends from
It's going to be one-sided, but they're going to enjoy it. So good luck to the Sharks. On board 3, before we get to the games, there is another very interesting couple of matchups. You've got the Hugin Chess Club, who I assume are from Iceland, if I've got that correct.
Yeah, they are.
And they are playing Malachite, which is another Russian team. And on the top 2 boards, the two pairings that really stood out for me, Karyakin playing Jones. Karyakin beat Jones at the European Team Championships in 2007, so he's got 1-0 over Gawain. And then we've got Grishchuk van Kampen. They've never played.
Robin.
Yeah.
Up-and-coming young Dutchman.
So there's
crazy young. I think he's 19 years old.
Sick.
But against Alexander Grishchuk, who is closing in once again on the number 3 spot in the world. He was very close to 2,800 earlier this year.
Yeah.
And now with Levan Aronian struggling a bit, I think there's only 3 points between them. So our hobby, the live rating list, could very well have some serious changes today. Shall we go into the games of the Masters?
Before we do,
have seen the first moves.
Before we do, remember, everybody at home, we love to hear from you. Hashtag C24Live. We are very active with the Twitter feed during this tournament, so we will be keeping an eye on that. Please send us everything you want to say, and we'll pick out the best tweets. But let's go to the games now then, Jan. You're an expert. I know where you're going first.
Where do you want to go?
You're going Vallejo Anand.
Let's go there.
You're going Vallejo Anand. Let's go there.
So our friends, Chess24 contributors, both of them. Vallejo done a lot of Spanish videos. Vichy has some great videos, not only for beginners, but also advice on tips and tricks, strategic ideas he learned in his career. Check them out on Chess24. But for now, let's see what they're playing today. Vallejo goes for 1 d4. He's normally an e4 player, but like pretty much everybody else, he's become very flexible over the years, plays everything. And he knows Vichy Anand quite well. They used to work together. The Spanish connection a bit. Vichy Anand spent many years living in Spain. So those two are very familiar with each other. Anand goes for a classical opening, which he's played a lot, knight f6, e6. Vallejo plays knight f3, knight c3, of course, the main alternative, but in the Nimzo Indian, Anand is like a fish in water. He's played this throughout his career. So Vallejo tries knight f3. And Anand, like many players, likes to combine the Nimzo Indian with the Queen's Gambit declined and its various branches. So after knight f3, he chooses d5, knight c3. And the move we've seen a lot recently, really a big trend among the world's best players, the move bishop to b4. I can never remember what's called. Ragozin?
The Ragozin, right. What's the latest? You're a theoretician, Jan.
Mm-hmm.
You are really one of the guys up there who, you keep an eye on these things. What's the current state of, how is this defence actually doing realistically against?
Well, if all the world top players use it with black, we can think of Carlsen, Aronian, Kramnik, Anand. I'm sure Paco himself has played it. Playing it recently, it can't be in that bad shape. One thing, it does lead to pretty unbalanced positions quite often. So it's not black trying to play solidly, but he's trying to uses good preparation, his opening expertise, and really put white under pressure or force a sharp game on him immediately. They play the main line, c takes d, e takes d, bishop g5, h6. This has been a bit of a recent trend. It's always been on the agenda, but knight bd7 used to be a more popular move here. But h6, bishop h4, and c5, which is what Anand has played, has become a very topical line. The main line here used to be the move e3, when black normally grabs more space with the move c4. And this has turned out to be very difficult for white to prove anything against. Black wants to go g5, knight to e4, develop his pieces towards the center. And here would already have a space advantage with his pawn on c4. So in my opinion, and of course this could change any day, e3, c4 at the moment is doing very well for black. And the critical test is the move d takes c5. There were some recent games, which I think is quite an interesting try to get an opening advantage here. But of course, Anand, as we know, tremendously well prepared. He always has been, and he hasn't played that much working on his openings. So if he plays this, he will know the ins and outs. And Vallejo might have been a little surprised by this. I can't recall seeing Anand play this line all that much.
All right, interesting. So we got this position. We're waiting for Paco to move. Let's go to the other game. This looks like something we've probably had this position on the board, me and you. Actually, it's the sort of
really
thing.
Interesting, because Ponomarev, who lost it, had a tough loss yesterday. Got outplayed by Vishy Anand in the King's Indian. He sticks to his guns, and once again he goes d4, d6. Same move that he used yesterday against Anand, against Aronian, who's still the world number 2, of course, on the live rating list. Caruana has passed by, but he is, I believe, still up there. And Aronian, like Anand, goes for the move 2 knight f3, doesn't want any part of 2 e4.
What are they so scared of?
I don't think they're scared of anything in particular. Aronian, he's not an e4 player, so
That's
he's not
true.
familiar with the perch, the filly door, all those kind of things that could occur. So for him, it's more natural to stay in this knight f3, c4 territory. I was more surprised Anand yesterday did not take the bait.
Yeah.
Knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7. Once again, an invitation into the King's Indian. Aronian, he goes for the g3 system,
Yeah.
which has been doing pretty well recently. And Aronian himself, he won a very nice game against Nakamura in it.
Correct.
So he's been doing some work on this. It's one of the most solid setups. What I like about it is that you can't get checkmated. With your bishop on g2, the typical black counterplay of launching all his pawns up the
You
king's side.
really have had like
I've had some
nightmares
traumatic
over.
experiences
Really
in the King's Indian.
traumatized, aren't you? You're looking at h3, anything to just block this kingside attack. What happened, Jan?
I've had a tough
Open your
childhood.
heart. Open up.
No, I think white is better in the King's Indian, objectively, but we all grew up with being instilled this fear because of the games of Kasparov and Fischer, who played the King's
That's
Indian.
right.
That's why everybody in England plays it and is trying to checkmate opponents. And studying all these games, there is always this fear in your heart that you can get checkmated there. And me personally, I've just never found a system I really like against the King's Indian. It's been troubling me. And this g3 is a very solid setup. Here, there's one added bonus. Let's get rid of these stupid arrows, because normally in these g3 lines, black has the option of playing c6, d5, or d5 immediately, transposing into the Grunfeld. But since Ponomarev started with 1 d6, he cut these options out for himself on the first move, which means he's committed to playing a g3 King's Indian. Well, a lot of players, if they see g3, they switch to a setup with c6 and d5, which you can't do here. So he played c6, not the main move, but a move we've seen around quite a bit. Castles and bishop f5.
This is a bit offbeat.
That's a bit offbeat. c6 normally combined with either queen b6 or queen a5. Sometimes it's used to transpose into other lines with knight d7 and e5. The bishop f5 does
Very
strike me as a
offbeat.
little offbeat as well.
I don't quite trust it.
I do recall one game, Van Vele with white against Wang Hao, if I'm not mistaken,
got
where
91,
Van Vele
yeah.
went 91 here, which is very logical to get an e4, and Wang Hao played d5.
Wow.
That was an interesting line. Van Vele won that game, but I don't think it was because of the opening. The point of bishop f5 is always twofold. You want to go knight e4 if possible, exchanging some pieces and controlling that e4 square. And you often have the idea of playing queen c8 and bishop h3 to exchange this fianchetto bishop. So it's interesting. I don't fully trust it because you're not doing battle in the center immediately. I like this move, knight e1. If black now chose this plan with queen c8, let's say e4, bishop h3, I think white is better in these structures. Let's say knight c2, as many other possible moves, takes. And in the pure King's Indian, if black were ever to go e5 and white were to go d5, it tends to favor white that the light square bishops disappeared from the board.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure. Often black switches to plans with c5 here, but I think white is a bit better in most of those lines. Instead, Aronian did not listen to our great advice. He went for the move bishop g5. Interesting move as well. Does not stop knight e4, which I thought you normally try to in order not to allow black exchanging some pieces.
Idea.
But he probably wants to do something concrete, right?
I think he wants to go queen b3, yeah.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. And attacking these weak
Queen
spots.
C7,
Queen c7, you can even think about
queen e3, yeah. That's an Aronian move, this queen e3
that's
move.
A cute little maneuver
Yeah,
for sure.
I quite like that actually.
Not sure if it's getting anywhere concrete, but it would certainly pose some problems from the get-go. Yeah, we'll see what Ponomarev has up his sleeve here. Gotta say, I don't fully trust his opening. Yesterday he wasn't that well prepared against Anand, got into trouble out of the opening. It looks like he's kind of trying to get by playing sidelines, and he hasn't really done a lot of mainline work in these openings. We'll see. It's very early in the tournament, and starting with blacks against Anand and Aronian is not the easiest task in the world.
Tweet from Omar Shah.
What's he up
Morning, Mr. G and Mr. T. Greetings from Trano. Now, people
Is that
from
how you pronounce it? Trano?
Trano. They miss the O.
No, I think it's been renamed The Six.
The 6?
Yeah.
Why?
I only know one guy from Toronto. It's this guy called Drake. Have you heard of Drake?
The rapper?
Yeah, he's doing everything now.
The guy with zero talent?
No, don't mess with Drake. You don't know what you're talking about.
Please.
No, he's a phenomenon, even if you don't like his music. And I think he single-handedly renamed Toronto The Six.
Right. Well,
Anyway,
I'm pleased for him, but Trano, as they say. Omar Shah says, what chances do you give Anand in the upcoming World Championship match? Well, we're going to be talking a lot about this throughout this tournament, and obviously as we approach the World Championship match, I'm sure we'll do a nice few good articles on this. I personally, I'll keep it very short. He's the underdog still, and I rate his chances more than I did a year ago, but I still think he's going to lose by, what was it last time? He lost 6.5, 3.5, so he lost with 2 games to go or something. Yeah, he lost in rounds.
-4.
Yeah, he got -4. I think he'll lose by a couple of wins this time. I don't think it'll be more than 2 wins.
It's so hard to predict those things. I've been quoting chess history yesterday, Botvinnik making those comebacks. Carlsen has been the dominant player over the last 5 years. We shouldn't forget that. So I do think he's the favorite. But with every game Anand wins, he's been in tremendous shape in the candidates. He looks in very good shape here. He picks up more confidence. Carlsen has not looked as strong this year as last year, not as unbeatable, dominating all the tournaments. So I'm expecting a much closer affair this time around.
I think so. Let's have a look at maybe some of the European Club Cup games, because they are very interesting as well. Let's go to...
1 second before we go there.
He took off.
After h6, bishop h4, c5, Vallejo did take on c5, which I consider the critical move. So this is going to be a very interesting opening battle. Did not go for this e3, c4. He did go d takes c, knight bd7. And here there's a couple options for white. Rook to c1, I think, is the move I liked best. But I always forget. I really do.
These lines are so confusing, aren't they?
They are very complicated, and all the move orders involved. There was a line I really liked here, but I really can't remember it. We'll see what these guys do.
Yeah, these guys know. Tweet, laid medium. Did Jan and Lawrence make an arrangement regarding their outfit? Phew. No, we didn't, actually, is the truth. I didn't know he was wearing purple, otherwise I wouldn't have worn pink, but c'est la vie.
I think it looks beautiful.
Do you think it looks all right?
Yeah, I think we've done worse.
We've definitely done worse.
I can bring out my Robocop t-shirt tomorrow.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Should we look at some European Club Cup?
What do you want to see?
I want to go.
Let's jump into the top games.
Yeah, let's go right to
There's a question from the Magnetone. Any chance to comment on get the European Club Cup games up on the Chess24 website? We're not going to get them up on the Chess24 website, but we will cover them in this show. It's a tough tournament to cover. There's been some troubles with the PGNs, but today it looks like we have games, and we're going to jump straight into the top match, which is Sokar Azerbaijan against the team we can't pronounce, so we'll just call them SHSM from Moscow.
Nepomniachtchi Mamedyarov, bit of a big game. What have we got? Do you want to?
We got a Petrov.
Petrov, or Russian defense, as some people
It's a
call
bit
it.
of a surprise seeing Mamedyarov play the Petrov. I can't recall him doing that much. He's been dabbling around with the Caro-Kann a lot recently. E4, E5. Today he plays the Petrov. It's not as popular as it used to be. Like 10 years ago when Kramnik was playing it a lot, it was proclaimed as this is the end of chess. Now, not a lot of guys play it. And one big reason for it is this move Knight C3, which has turned out to be quite simple for white to play. You just force this exchange and then you develop your pieces. Bishop E3, Queen D2, long castle. This pawn provides extra cover for the white king on the queen side. So this system has given black some troubles. And
you know what?
I do.
You know a lot of stuff, yeah. You know a lot more stuff than I do about this game. I have to confess, this is one of those openings I just can't get my head around it with white. I just don't, and white wins a fair portion of the time in this.
Yeah, this line
and he
is
does
very
these
difficult.
weird H4 random moves, and it looks like black's totally solid, but white just ends up winning.
Well, the one thing in these lines, black has a choice between kingside castles, normally they don't go bishop e6 then, or the plan with queenside castles we see from Mamedyarov with queen d7 and long castles. The thing with this plan with queenside castles is white normally goes for an early knight to g5, going after this bishop. And if you get the two bishops, you know my feelings towards the two bishops, white is going to be slightly better with very little risk. So normally black tries to keep this bishop alive, which is no simple task. He goes bishop f5 here. There have been many games along those lines with f6, long castles, and trying to hold this position, which you can, but it's not going to be a lot of fun. White just keeps improving his position and banks on his extra bishop. So Mamedyarov plays a move bishop f5 here. Not that familiar with this one, I gotta admit. Bishop c4 comes to mind, but I guess he has knight e5. And Nepomniachtchi goes for h3, h6, and retreats. Now we're in subtlety land already, like who's favored by this piece positioning. Knight d4 is always an option here. You can think about g4, bishop g2. There is a lot of subtleties here. If you remember that game Peter Lako showed against Van Hewitt, like he was checking all these moves, b3, a3, king b1, a3, rook g1. Both sides have tried a lot. It really
is.
But it is not easy to play with black.
No, absolutely, I agree. So interesting.
We'll keep an eye on that one. The game I'm excited about is the game on board 2. Veselin Topalov, former world champion, been playing great chess recently, won the board prize on board 1 at the Olympiad, did quite well in St. Louis after losing his first 2 games, scored 50%. Yep. He's playing a guy who hasn't been very active recently, but a long-time favorite of chess fans all over the world, Alexander Morozevich.
One of my favorite players for sure.
When he has been active, he's been doing well. I believe this Poikovsky tournament, he won that tournament, right? In Siberia? Yeah.
He's a guy who can, he's a bit like Topalov in many ways. On his day, he can beat anyone. And their first game was in 1995, their first classical game. So these guys have got a bit of a history, but Topalov has actually got a huge score against Morozevich, believe it or not. Right. And he's actually beaten Morozevich in the past 3 classical games. So the past 3 Grand Prix, he beat him in every Grand Prix in 2013 last year. So Morozevich with a point to prove. Let's just take it from the current position.
You're not going to be surprised about my take on this position.
You hate black's position, don't you?
White is better. 2 bishops, space advantage. You got in this e takes d5. I really like these structures for white. It's a different story. Let's just briefly go back. Here, if you go c takes d5, then bishop g4 makes a lot of sense to me. Or I think black is more or less alright. But in the structure with e takes d5, I've always liked white's chances. There's a lot of classical games here, the likes of Ullmann or Botvinnik, grinding away on these positions with white. And black really has to play concretely, because else, if white manages to stabilize, he's taking his time here, queen d1. I like this move as well. Getting the pieces out, let's say bishop d2, queen c2, rook e1. Often you go f4. Black can really suffer from the lack of space he has.
So knight h5. Now, this move is a standard kind of idea in these fianchetto, King's Indian Benoni type structures. But in this particular position
One question I have, why not g4?
Well, that's a horrible move, isn't it?
I don't know if it is.
I think it is.
If you have to retreat, I could get ambitious and grab a lot of space already.
I don't think he's going to play g4. Actually, he loves moving that g4.
You know Topalov, he loves playing g4. What I was curious about is, first of all, if there's any insanity like queen h4, which I guess there is not. You can probably take the piece, even if you don't feel like. You can probably go king g2, but gh, I don't think black has enough here. Queen h3.
I'm not sure.
Can never be sure.
Not sure. Black just might be
Doesn't
winning
look
here.
enough, nah. So
Bishop e5?
e4.
I'm going to checkmate you.
You probably are going to checkmate. Yeah, I missed f4, bishop d4.
Bishop d4.
Which is
No, you have to go bishop f4 here, right?
Bishop f4.
To stop bishop e5, I assume.
Many options, but yeah, maybe.
But now, maybe... Nah, that's about it, isn't it?
It's hard to believe.
It's hard to believe. It's really hard to believe. But okay, so g4, let's have a little think.
No, I'm quite convinced if you have to retreat, then f4, that white is very seriously better. So I think you would have to do something, either queen h4, or maybe even this move you could consider, even though it looks a bit ugly too. If white just takes back and this dark squared bishop is gonna...
I think that's... I don't think you can take
rule.
on c3. Maybe we'll go g4.
If there's nothing concretely wrong with it, it very often is part of the white plan anyway. And here, you can contemplate f4. I'm not sure you even have to. But
I've got a question as well. If you don't want to go g4 yet, do you know the move that I thought? What about just bishop e2?
you can do that. But then I thought maybe queen h4 is a decent move along the lines of Fischer. If you take here, pawn takes, this is not so bad for black. First of all, c4 would be under attack, and it's easy to put your pieces on active positions.
Oh, okay.
So
g4 is
allow this
critical,
queen
yeah?
h4.
Just g4.
I think this is the critical move, yeah. Oh, sorry. g4 here. And it really depends if black has anything concrete here. Because if you gotta retreat, I don't like black's chances at all, I gotta tell you. Not sure if f4 is needed, but I think this setup, white puts the queen on f3, bishop d2, king g2, rook e1. Black is so short of space if he can't make anything concrete happen. I'm not a big fan. Our friend Sam Thompson is up early. He likes the tie. Thank you so much. That means a lot, Sam Thompson. What else is going on?
Claudio Mendicute says, how do you personally feel that you're informed, better calculating, more imaginative idea plans, all of the above not allowed? No idea what he's trying to say there. Can you
How you feel that you're informed? The factors by which you can tell that you're in good shape? For me, it's making moves quickly. If I spend a lot of time and can't decide and spend 40 minutes trying to decide on which move to play, it's normally a clear indicator of bad form or lack of practice. Well, if you're in good form and you trust your calculations and you make your moves quickly, for me that is a big factor.
For me,
also winning a lot of games tends to be a good indicator.
For me, when I feel in form, for me the big indicator is calculation. Actually, I feel like my mind is clear. I feel like I'm sharp. I feel like I see a lot of things, and that gives you confidence when you calculate well, and also when you anticipate your opponent's moves a lot. I think a big one is if you just don't guess any of your opponent's moves, you go crazy during the game. I didn't see anything. But when you say,
That's what happens to me when I'm playing against you. Like, it's very hard to
my
get
moves,
inside that.
My moves are terrible, so that's a different story.
But they're also always unexpected, which is a good thing. Topalov did not play G4, he played 94. What kind of move is that? Might be a very good move. Because it stops Queen H4, which annoyed me, because now all of a sudden Bishop G5 picks up the Queen.
Bada bing, bada boom.
And of course it attacks D6. If Black has to go passive, let's say Queen C7, then once again you can contemplate G4, but you also eliminated the immediate threat of Queen to H4, so here White has many pleasant choices. So what else can Black do? I was thinking about a move like knight df6 maybe, but then your knights also look a bit clumsy. You could even think about this move now, threatening G4, and Black could get.
And if knight d7, knight takes h7 followed by queen takes
that's
h5.
cute. Stopping G4, but running into this.
And that's game over.
Bam.
Pawns are
That's
pawn.
always a motive to keep an eye out.
Oh, knight e4 might be a good move, Vasily.
Very surprised he didn't go G4. It's such a Topalov move. He normally doesn't need any incentive to go G4. We'll have a look at one more game from this match, and then we'll move back to the Masters, which is our focus.
Mickey Adams joining the Rogozin Club. How much is entry? I want to pass.
No. This is a different line. It just looks very similar.
Oh.
It's the Queen C2 Nimzo Indian, which I believe my series for White is coming out today or tomorrow.
Fantastic, really?
Yeah. And I actually played this very line D5 against Alexei Dreyev with the black pieces. He's a very good theoretician, and he really sticks to his lines, Dreyev. If he's going to play something, he's going to play it not once, but 10, 20 times and really keep the discussion going. He played the same against me, C takes D. I went Queen takes D5, which is a solid move. I got a good position and then went on to bungle it. But Mickey plays E takes D, which is a lot more concrete. It's very similar to this Rogozin, but it's a little different because the queen's on c2 already and the knight is not on f3 yet. So some details are changed. Bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, c5 takes. And here is the first surprise, castles. This is a sideline which is supposed to lead to a slightly better position for White at very little risk. The discussions are being held in these lines, which leads to very, very sharp madness where you really have to know your theory, which maybe Adams didn't feel like going for a crazy theory battle today, but just play a position which might be slightly worse but leaves more play. He went for castles. Now the problem is now White just develops, which is what happened with e3, bishop e6, knight f3, knight d7, bishop e2, rook to c8. And here, let's say castles. These positions are supposed to be slightly better for White, but as usual it is concrete. If Black can drum up play against the c3 knight very quickly, it's not that simple. We'll see how Dreyev handles it. And Mickey Adams, he knows his way around in these structures.
Yeah,
he's not that afraid of having an isolated queen's pawn. He's played a lot of Queen's Gambit, of all these lines. He knows how to handle that kind of stuff.
Mickey, yeah. Mickey, in Mickey we trust. Let's go back to Bilbao. Let's just have a quick look as well at the Twitter sphere. Got a couple of tweets. Efrain Garrido. Greetings, guys. Do you know who's going to do the commentary for the upcoming World Championship match? Well, we'll be involved in some capacity. That's for sure.
We'll find a way to weasel in.
We will. I can say confidently that Chess24 will be in some way producing something for the World Championship match. Is that?
We'll cover it for sure. I don't know who's going to do the official coverage, in what languages. It's all very fresh. There's a lot of talks behind the scenes. But of course, we are as excited as everyone else about the World Championship match, and we will be covering it one way or the other. One guy who's going to be involved in it is
Vishwanathan.
D takes C, E3, Queen to A5. This might be the line. I keep mixing up everything. Which I was looking at. A move like Queen D4 was interesting in some of these positions. I'm not sure it was here. And then after Bishop takes C5, returning to D2. I don't think it was here, because here Black can probably just go Bishop B4 back, threatening knight to E4. It's not clear what white has achieved.
No, I don't like that.
And I believe in the recent game, Topalov against Carlsen, knight d2 was played here.
This was at Sinkerfield.
No,
No?
this was... Where was it? Was it
Don't
Sinkerfield? No.
Don't recall this game.
Where did they play? Norway chess. This
Norway
is Norway
chess.
chess.
Right.
Knight d2. Carlsen got into some trouble out of the opening, grabbed a very hot pawn on a2 at some point, but managed to hold the game. Something like... I have terrible memory. Apologies, chess fans out there. Look it up if you want to know details. Something along those lines, and Topalov got a pretty decent position. And Carlsen went for some queen a3, queen takes a2, somewhere around here.
Yeah. We've covered so many games this year, haven't we, on Chess 24? It does get a bit tricky trying to remember everyone.
No, I think...
No?
It does, it does.
How many Rogozins have we seen this year? I mean,
I've seen a lot of Rogozins.
you know, it's
Seen
not...
a lot of Berlins, those are tougher
We've
for
seen
me.
a lot of Berlins.
Anthony Cunningham is pointing out, we mentioned that Grishuk is pressuring Aronian's number 3 spot. Anand is also only 2 points behind Aronian. Very, very true. With yesterday's win, of course, Anand picked up a couple more rating points, and it's very close up there. It's Carlsen 30 points ahead of Karana, who then is 35, maybe 40 points ahead of everybody else at the moment. But behind that, it's so packed. Topalov also is in the mix. Anand very much, Grishuk, Aronian. It's really very, very close up there.
Certainly.
And one thing I've been happy to see, I think I've mentioned it, Anish Giri made it into the top 10 in the live rating list for the first time. He's number 10 today.
And he's playing in the European Club Cup as well. And what a talent he is. He's going to be up there fighting with look at all these young guys now at the top. Caruana,
It's crazy how young everything is.
Carlsen, Giri, Vashir Lagrave, Maxim, MVL as he's now called. I like the fact he's called MVL, I think that's... he can only be, what, 24?
He's around there, 23, 24. It's always strange
been around
because they've been
forever.
around forever. Same with Caruana, 22 years old. Carlsen, 23 years old. Giri, 20 years old.
Actually, is it Carlsen's birthday during the World Championship match?
I have no idea.
Can we quickly... We'll get that. When is his birthday? Tweet us. I remember it's November. So I think he's actually going to turn 24 during the World Championship match. That'd be a nice present to keep hold of his title. Omar Shah says, Mr. G, you were using the word concrete a lot today. He uses it a lot, all the time.
It's one of my favorite words.
Is it
Concrete, principled.
Is it similar to most principled, or is there a difference? Explain the difference between most principled and concrete, from Mr. Omar Shah.
I think he's just pointing out I use both these words a lot. They don't have that much to do with each other, right? Concrete means
I think
this is... Well, that's because I use it a lot, because it kind of describes it accurately, that it requires immediate action or threatens something and is kind of forcing the game into a direction where you need to do something directly. Well, most principles can be a concrete line, or it can be a very slow line where there's nothing concrete. It's just what I consider to be the most challenging way to play the position. Not sure if that made sense, but...
There you go, Arnaud. I think it did. I think that makes sense.
All right.
Let's go to Aronian, because we haven't... Oh, we played Rook C1.
Rook C1. Yeah, I gotta get my line straight here. I can't recall what is what. But did he mix up something here? 94, what's going on? Then you go queen takes d5, is this a line?
Oh my goodness. Takes. Knight d2, you can not play or...
No, knight d2, I think black just castled it and it's fine.
King d... No, you can't play king d1. Forget it, it's not happening. He's never playing this. You think this is happening?
Well, I don't think Anand's going to go 94.
I'll give you 2 or 3 to 1. I think Anand's going 94. There's no way he's taking on d5.
Okay, I'll take that action.
A 2 to 1? You think he's going to put his king on d1?
Yeah, but I know a lot more than you about this line, so it might be ripping you off.
Are you ripping me off?
Not necessarily. I'm just saying this is principal
I'll give you
stuff.
evens. Let me
show you the line. Castles, bishop c4. Might not be a very good line. We'll see what's going on.
Do you want to take it at evens?
No.
Are you trying to... Magnus's birthday is on the 30th. So just after the World Championships. So that's good.
You don't want your birthday during a World Championship match.
Felix Kramer says, it's not that they are young, you are just old. You're right.
That is a fair enough point.
Wait, what are you, 34? No, 35.
No, let's not speak about this on the air.
What are you, 35?
I'm a lot older than you, which...
You're not that, what have you got, 5 years, 6 years on me?
I'm much older than you.
What are you, 35? You never tell me how old you are. I'll just
I'm
Google
35 years old.
Okay, well, I'm turning 29. Yeah, 6 years. That's okay. It's fine, no? You look good. You're in good shape. We are old, Felix. You're right. Basically, we're past it in chess terms.
Yeah.
It's quite sad, isn't it?
Time flies. It really
Amazing.
became more of a young man's game with the shorter time controls. Also, the draw rules. I mean, I've always made a lot of draws for being a chicken, but they also require you, now that the games are longer and tougher fights, which is great for us and chess fans out there. They require you to be even fitter physically than in the old days when people were taking more breaks, really.
I remember the old days. I see some Korchnoi footage and of him playing in Lone Pine. Do you remember this tournament, Lone Pine?
I don't.
No?
No.
Are you serious? Well, and some American tournaments. There was some great footage on YouTube, and there's Korchnoi puffing away with his cigar at the board. Those were the days, huh? Have a drink at the board. No problems. Nowadays you can't.
You know, Botvinnik used to train in a cloud of smoke. He wasn't a smoker himself, but he was preparing for these games against Tal and so on, so he had to train with people blowing smoke in his face to survive these games.
Just puffing away.
Good old days.
Beautiful. Okay, I'll give you evens on that.
No, you're not getting action. Let's move on to the next game.
I hate Pono's play. I love Pono, but I just... what is this?
Let's see, bishop g5, he went h6. Probably he did not fancy this line we were looking at. This looks like the principal move to me, knight e4, takes, but queen,
like
b3,
queen b3
is asking some questions,
yeah.
Especially with this queen e3 idea. So he went h6, fair enough. Aronian went bishop e3, which might look a bit funky, but the point of provoking this h6 is normally that he can now win a tempo for his development with queen to d2, or even queen c1 as he played. And black has to lose a move on king to h7. Not sure about knight a6. It looks a bit all over the place. And he's not really fighting for the center. Of course, bishop e3, that puts these e4 ideas on hold a bit. But still, knight a6, bit surprising. Queen c1, king to h7. If black were to play knight g4 here, which might look tempting, it's not really that tempting because white goes bishop d2. All of a sudden, h3 is a threat, attacking this pawn. e4 is back on the map. So knight g4, not a good idea. King h7 makes sense. Aronian played h3. Aronian is another guy who loves the move g4. He really loves it. He considers it a weakness in his game. I talked to him about this. He just loves h3, g4 so much. He always talks himself into, I gotta do this. This makes a lot of sense. And here he's got a bit of a hook on h6. So I'm sure g4 followed by g5 is very much on his mind here.
I think there was a concrete reason why he played knight a6, by the way, Jan.
Who's using concrete a lot now?
Yeah, well, I'm going to steal it. Move 9, because I think if you go knight d7, which is the typical way of developing the knight, yeah, I think knight h4 is a problem. And
very true.
If you go bishop e6, d5, and suddenly you're chasing down the bishop, and yeah, you end up potentially losing. Anyway, it gets a bit messy. So you had to put your knight on easy. But you're right, it all looks a bit... It looks
doesn't really click.
Looks a bit like my bedroom. Things all over the place.
Tell me about it.
You know?
Yeah, there's no consistency in black's setup or your bedroom.
Well, there's consistency. Anyway.
Let's not go literally.
I like white's position, and I think Levon... I like h3 because g4 is always a nuisance to deal with.
Well, it's not like he's gonna have to do it anytime soon, but it gives him some more options and it gives black something to worry about. Like every move you have to calculate g4, g5, which is always annoying, right? It also stops black's other plan of queen to c8 and playing bishop h3 himself. Now you could mirror white's play with queen c8, but then white could just go king h2, and he could go g4 as well.
He will go g4.
And grabbing some more space. This looks like a very Aronian-esque position. Rook to b8 has been played, hinting at the move b5. One thing I'm not quite sure about is why he put his queen on c1 and not d2.
Because it gets
probably
hit by
knight g4.
Knight e4.
No, I think knight g4 here concretely bothered him.
Knight
because you
g4.
don't have bishop d2.
Yeah. Sorry, knight e4 loses the pawn, doesn't it?
Right.
Does it?
So h3.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Rook to b8.
Yeah.
Planning b5. Now, Aronian, I'm sure he's thinking about g4 here.
I think he will go g4. I think he will.
Yeah, the bishop would have to retreat. If it went to e6, then already g5 is becoming pretty powerful. Knight takes with a nasty little knight fork. King has to go and knight takes e6. This is pretty much winning for white. So after g4, black will probably go bishop back to d7. And white enjoys a space advantage, but nothing too bad has happened yet.
But now you can go queen d2.
Yeah,
Just
now you
connect the
can.
rooks. And
Yeah, you always have to keep an eye on h5 in these positions. Because you don't want to go g5. It might look tempting, but you kind of kill your own play on the king side. I've done this with white. It's normally not a good idea because you're really blocking the inroads towards the black king. You're blocking your own play on this diagonal.
so h5. Can you go
H5
knight
is
g5
possible.
check?
You can, but you don't really want to go f3, do you? It looks,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
looks
It looks a
awkward
bit
to me.
strange, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It looks a bit. Yeah, it looks a bit. Yeah,
F5,
I feel like I'm losing the thread.
Yeah.
Here. Well, he played g4. Of course
he did.
yeah.
He loves to play g4.
He played g4.
G4 and Ponomaryov, I think it's pronounced,
Mm-hmm.
is going to go bishop d7. Now he can't just play a quiet move. We were looking at queen d2. There is other options. Not quite sure. I think if black gets in this h5, manages to provoke g5, it's not so easy. We'll see what Levon does.
What if you go queen d2, h5, g5, knight e8, and then play a move like bishop f4?
You can do that.
And I just want to go e4 and say, okay, your knight's zwei Springer am Rand, bring Komma and Schand.
Very well said, sir. I'm not sure. Black has some counterplay with b5 if he so chooses.
It's a bit loosey. It's still loose. I take and play rook c1, and I'm not that bothered about b4. And I'm just going to go e4.
Well, if you can get in e4, e5,
Yeah.
that tends to be a good thing. I have some bad experiences with this structure because
I know
it's
you
so
don't
hard
like it, but
to make progress, but you could very well be right that this
I
is
don't know.
sensible play.
I don't know. Let's go to the Twitter sphere. Damien Domke, where have you been? We just talked about this. We're going to get this question a lot, aren't we? What are your feelings about the World Championship match? Who's going to win that thing? Cannot imagine that Anand will do it. Sorry, I don't know why you're apologising to us. Apologise to him. Apologise to his wife, his child, and all of his fans. No, there's nothing to apologise about. Fact is, we'll repeat it again. Carlsen favourite, but it's going to be closer than last time. That's basically it, isn't it?
Who knows, really? Anything can happen
Anything
in a
can
World Championship match. Carlsen, yeah, we're just repeating ourselves, looks less dominant this year than last year, and Anand looks much better this year. Still, Carlsen does still have a 90 rating points edge, and that's all you can really go by. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm certainly looking forward to it. And I believe Paco mixed up something. E3, Queen A5, Rook C1, Anand played Knight to E4. The one position I've been thinking about, which you could compare this to, is this line, which used to be very popular. Keep in mind, H6, Bishop H4 has not been included. E3, C5, D takes C, Queen to A5. How does this line go? Rook to C1. And if Knight E4 here, which is without H6 and Bishop H4, Queen takes D5 is a good move. Knight takes, Pawn takes, Bishop takes, King to D1. And believe it or not, this is very good for white.
Really?
This has been played multiple times. There's games by Kramnik against Mamedyarov. this is just good for white. Castles, bishop c4, and there's nothing you can do. But I think having included h6, bishop h4 might change the equation, which is something we're going to have to look at. Trust me, you can analyze this at home, but this is mainstream theory. Bishop takes c5. Knight takes c5, runs into bishop e7, and there's not that much black can do here.
Wow.
This is all theory. Bishop b4, bishop f8, bishop e6. It's better for white. Queen d4, rook takes f8, king e2. White emerges material up here.
Wow.
But with h6 and bishop h4 included, I
What's
think the
the
equation
difference?
has changed
Why?
here. Because now you have g5 in a lot of lines. Queen takes d5, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, king to d1, say castles, bishop to c4. And here, g5, as funny as it looks, could very well be a problem.
Cool, I just want to snap that guy off.
Because it stops bishop e7, which is really white's main idea.
So if I snap that off...
You snap it off, gets snapped back, and this bishop can go back to g7, kind of defending the house.
And if I snap it off with the knight? I suppose it's the
You
same.
might have a little suspicion.
Knight
I'm
f6,
not
have
sure.
you got-
Knight
yeah.
to f6.
Yeah, no, that's a problem. That's
I
a
think this really changes things, and I'm little wondering if Paco mixed up some details here, because I think you're supposed to play this rook c1 line if black has not included h6, but if he has, as
amazing.
in the game, I think you want to go knight d2 or queen d4 in this position. Sorry, in this position, which are the critical moves with me liking queen d4.
I don't like that one.
Fair enough. Or knight to d2.
Knight d2 I like.
Yes,
a lot
Topalov
more.
played.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the main lines, but rook c1 here with h6, bishop h4 in, I think it changes the equation quite a bit. And Vishianen, once again, might have caught his opponent a little in the opening here.
Amazing. Should we have a look at some European Club Cup?
Let's just get a brief update.
Queen
Aronian
D2.
did play the move queen d2, and I think they're going down the line you mentioned. h5 looks very natural to me. Not sure if Ponomarev is going to do it. h5, g5, knight e8. We'll see what's happening.
Can we see if we've got Kayakin Jones? Is that in our list today?
We're going to check our list. We have a lot of games. There is a lot of games in the Euro Club Cup. Before we go there, let's go to friend of the show, whippersnapper Anish Giri, if you don't mind.
Looks like he's got a great position as well, actually.
Looks like he's doing very well. He's playing Boris Grachev. Might not be that well known a name to some of the viewers, but he is a very strong, solid grandmaster from Russia, around 2650 till 2680 most of the time. Really knows his stuff. But it looks like Anish put him under pressure. He played this move b5, which I've never liked, frankly. We've seen Svidler play against Topalov in the last one of the candidates rounds.
That's right. It's
got into
basically the
horrible
same
trouble.
position, almost similar.
Knight takes, pawn takes,
And a4.
a4.
Similar idea, yeah.
b4, this is theory, but it's just very committal for black positionally, because if white manages to stabilize and get a grip on these squares, it's not easy for black to play. Knight f6, knight d2, bishop to c5. I'm sure all of this has been played before, but looks quite easy for white to play,
Love this position.
clamping down on all these weaknesses on the black queen side. Castles, queen e2, e5, h8, good move, stopping bishop g4 or knight g4 shenanigans. Bishop e6 and just bishop c4. I'm not sure why he didn't take the pawn. Maybe he didn't like knight to h5.
Yeah.
Queen takes, rook takes a6, and you're a pawn up, but you've given up a lot of the trumps you had earlier, like this queenside control.
Yeah, it's not so clear. This
Not so
position.
clear. So he didn't take, he just played bishop c4, which makes a lot of sense positionally. Once again, he's trying to clear the light squares on the queen side, and if black has to take, which he didn't, and white would just get a serious grip here. Queen takes, put the knight on b3, play a5, bishop d2. If black can't make anything happen on the king side, which it doesn't look like, he's bound to suffer here. Grachev played queen to c8 instead. Probably a better move, but doesn't change the nature of the position that much. Knight to b3, bishop somewhere, let's say e7. Any move, really. I like a5, bishop to g5, or even bishop d2.
Yeah.
Looks nice for white.
Does look nice for white, yeah.
Anish Giri, and as we mentioned, the race for these world rankings top spots is very close at the moment. Anish Giri number 10 in the live ratings, but I think places 8 till 12, they're only separated by like 5 rating points. It's Nakamura, MVL, Giri, who else is in there? Mamedyarov, Kramnik, those guys are all very, very close to each other. And every game can change these rankings. Probably the players don't care that much about, but I like following it.
I think they do care. Let's go to kayaking.
I don't think they care about the day-to-day. I think they count
the published ones, yeah.
Their apples after a tournament is finished, like how did I do with the rating? But if you start caring about the day-to-day, oh my god, I made a draw with black today, I lost 0.8 rating points. I think that's tough to do. But who knows? We're living in the information age. Everybody can check these websites that are giving you the live ratings at any time. And maybe some of the players check it as well. Kayakin Jones, that's your favorite. All yours.
Well, what's interesting about this game is that how funny this opening, the Austrian attack against the pitch. I actually discussed with Gawain this exact line, this offbeat line with knight c6 in last year, because he played a couple of games at the Commonwealth. Well, it was the Commonwealth Championships this year. It was Scottish Championships in Edinburgh. I think it's still Commonwealth. Anyway, the point is, we had a look at this position with this exact move, this e5 knight h5 idea, and I think Gawain is really at home here. I think this is actually all his opening theory, and I think he's going to go f5, and I think black's fine. He's looking at d4, he's looking at this knight on h4. The bishop looks like it could be lost, but you never really lose it.
That's very concrete. He's a very concrete player. Yeah. h3, of course, has to be calculated.
No, you
knight takes
take,
d4.
because of knight f3 check.
H takes g with a huge mess.
Or knight e2, or...
I'm not sure. Knight f3.
No, knight f3.
Knight takes f3.
Yeah, so knight e2.
Knight e2 is probably the move. Queen takes. Let's say knight takes. No.
Pawn takes g4. That's just a
what we got? White has a rook and 2 pieces for the queen, which is good on paper, but his pieces are a bit all over the place. I don't know. The computer is always on the side of the queen in all these positions. I'm not so sure. I like my pieces. If White manages to stabilize here, he could very well come out on top as well, if you ask me. Very complicated. But quite often in these positions also, who did his homework, who knows these lines, has a tremendous advantage, because you don't have to calculate your way through these messes. And we'll see what's going on, but certainly typical Jones position. Bishop on g7, sharp concrete, right up his alley. Then again, Sergei Kayakin, he is a tough customer.
Yeah, and all 3 results possible in my opinion there.
Let's have a brief look at our friend Robin van Kampen against Alexander Grishuk, if you don't mind.
I do not mind, of course I don't. Anything you like, sir.
If we can find it.
We've got to find the guy. Robin van Kampen, only 19 years old, remember, that's quite... here he is.
There we are. With the white pieces, Mr. van Kampen. E4 player. The Najdorf, Grishuk, one of the more principled guys out there, especially with black. He really likes the Najdorf, plays all the topical lines. And this is an idea. Bishop g7, knight, bishop g5, knight bd7, and a4, which I first heard of from our Spanish friend David Martinez. I think it might be mentioned in some of our videos. It looks a bit funny, because normally if you play bishop g5, you're out for blood, kingside attack, f4, queen f3, or bishop c4 in this position are very popular. But a4 is trying to cash in on the fact that a knight on d7 can't get to c6 so quickly anymore. You're trying to clamp down on the queen side with a5, kind of changing direction here. It's not a stupid idea at all.
No, it looks very interesting.
Very interesting. a4, e6. Actually, funny little side story. We mentioned this move to Vishy Anand at lunch at some point. And first of all, he was making a bit of fun of it, but then he thought about it and said, maybe it's not so stupid. I'm not sure that's exactly what happened, but
Was this recently?
A while back when Vishy was with us recording videos for Chess24.
Looks like a serious idea to me.
A5, queen to c7, and bishop e2, leading to a bit of a slower game. White has managed to achieve this a4, a5. In return, his bishop g5 is not a move you normally want in these positions. Bishop e7, knight to b3, castles, castles, and rook to d8. More often than not, you see black going rook e8 in these structures. The problem black has is he really wants b6, bishop b7 to have his setup whole. But b6, of course, here gets snapped off, and it's not a very pure kind of headshot position. White could very well be a bit better here if the knight takes b6. I don't know, queen d4. Looks quite pleasant for white. So castles, rook to d8, queen to d3. I'm not sure why I didn't go to d4. Looks more natural to me, so knight e5 doesn't come with tempo. Maybe didn't like knight c5. And then if takes, d takes c. Queen is under attack. Even though even this looks decent for white to me. Queen e3. Say you play queen d3 and h6 is on the board. I don't know, I'm not sure about the move queen d3, but I like the general white setup because it's so hard for black to make sense of his pieces without going b6.
What's wrong after bishop f4? I quite like this for white.
I would expect him
Queen
to go
G3?
knight e5, queen g3. Am I blundering stuff? Knight g6 is what
Bishop
I thought.
e3?
Just bishop e3.
Bishop b6 is coming?
Yeah, this is...
No, you're...
Not sure about this move rook d8, because this bishop b6 is really hitting your main lines. Yeah, this looks pleasant for white, I agree.
I think after bishop f4, white's got a little something to work with. Might not be much, but yeah, I don't... Tricky to get his pieces out.
Interesting stuff from Robin van Kampen, who's still 1 rating point higher rated than me, which I find deeply upsetting. But what are you going to do? Kids these days, they just keep learning and learning.
They do. Probably because they're watching our broadcast. We're going
I
to...
doubt it.
We're going to go for a very quick break. Obviously, a lot of big games still in progress. Don't go anywhere. Have a game of Blitz while we're gone. Click on the Play Now button. It's right next to my head. Choose your time control, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, whatever you like. And we'll be back in a few minutes, so see you soon.
Until recently, chess was like this. Chess24 brought you this. Live interactive broadcasts from top tournaments with computer analysis and video commentary by the likes of Jan Gustafsson, Lawrence Trent and Peter Svidler. A play zone where you can take on opponents from all around the world 24/7. Interactive beginners courses ensuring you pick up the basics fast while having fun. A tactics trainer to sharpen your chess by solving puzzles adapted to your level. Hundreds of interactive videos letting you watch and learn from star players such as Vishy Anand, Peter Svidler, Paco Vallejo and Hu Yifan. You've given up on that outdated computer? That's why there are more reasons to use Chess24 on mobiles and tablets. Full playzone access, including pre-move. A tactics trainer so you can stay sharp wherever you are. Computer opponents you can challenge even when you're not online. Live broadcasts of top chess events. And the half? It's free. Well, that's half true. Most features are free, but limited for registered members. For a mere €99 per year, however, you can step up to premium membership and gain unlimited access to our video library. That and much more. See you at chess24.com.
Hello and welcome everybody to the first Q&A on Chess24. I'm Jan Gustafsson and our first expert, super grandmaster, specialist, ask him anything, will be none other than Mr. Peter Svidler. We're delighted to have him here. Before we get into the questions and let Peter say anything, I'm not really planning to let him say anything, to be completely honest. I want to apologize for not doing this live. We're having a technical issue. I'm hoping you guys still get your questions answered and can enjoy the show. Peter, welcome.
Hello everybody, hello Jan, and I'm not sure I can sustain this volume, but I will do my very best. And as long as you keep the show running, I think everybody will be happy, or at least we hope so.
We do hope so. And we did get a lot of questions, which surprised us, because frankly, you don't know that much. I mean, like, you know, four or five things, and we get like 30 questions.
I've scrolled through a little bit to prepare myself for what's coming, and yes, I think people are expecting a lot from somebody whose area of expertise is, you know, TV and possibly cricket. And
nah, of course we're joking. He is a super grandmaster, 7 times Russian champion, all the good stuff. Let's jump straight into the questions, shall we?
Sure, that's what we're here for.
Shall we bring up the first question? It's by Mr. Tractatus. Dear Peter, obviously opponents at your level are always well prepared. What are your considerations regarding opening preparations? Here I am thinking about the pros and cons of 1, choosing to play your favorite opening, although the opponent most likely will be well prepared, and 2, choosing to play an unexpected opening, although you might not know all the different finesses as good as in your favorite opening.
Well, this has become more of an issue recently. I've always had this choice, as I think does pretty much any top player these days. But since recording the Grunfeld series, this has become a major concern because, to my slight amazement, it seems to have been reasonably well received, and I have no idea who has seen it and who hasn't. And playing the Grunfeld with black these days, there's this additional level of danger because people might know even more about it than they do normally. But I think it depends on your feeling on the day. It also depends on who exactly you're playing, because yes, people, when people, let's say, play white against me, they do expect a certain range of openings and they do prepare against them. But you know, I fear some people's preparation more than others. Let's put it like this. I'm not going to name names, but there are there are people out there who you expect to just kill you outright if you get caught in their preparation, and there are people out there who don't really aim for that, who play who aim to get a playable position more than just win the game straight out of the opening. So a lot of factors go into this, and also the way you're feeling, as I said, the way you're feeling on the day. But generally speaking, you do need to know a lot of sidelines to be able to play them, you know, more than once per tournament. So I generally tend to stick to my own stuff in most cases.
So bottom line, it is all our fault for publishing the Grunfeld series. That's what I take from this.
Well, yes, that is what I expected to be the major theme of that answer.
Fair enough. Let's move to our friend Schachspieler. He has 3 questions. I'm not sure if that's legal, but I think we can get number 1 out of the way quickly. Are you related with Bastian Pastewka?
Well, I had to Google who that is, and I don't really see the resemblance. I'm told there is some resemblance in some of the photos, but not the ones that Google provided me at first search, and I didn't really go any deeper.
You do kind of look alike.
No idea who that is, not my relative.
Fair enough. Question number 2, 1e4 question mark.
1e4 exclamation mark.
I thought you were more of a 1g3, 1 knight f3.
That's me. I'm an old man who has no energy to do any proper opening work. No, I still think 1e4 is a very decent move, but it's run into some problems recently, and you need to work on chess a bit.
That's annoying.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go to a more cheerful question. Number 3. What do you think about Loom?
I think there was a quest game I played when I was a little kid called Loom, but I'm not sure if that's what's being referred to here.
It's a LucasArts adventure.
Yeah,
sure
that's
what it means.
I loved it when I played it, but there was about 25 years ago. I don't remember much. I remember it was one of the things I really enjoyed playing. There were bits of it which were very, very nice. I thought some of the concepts were very original. Legend of Kirandi as well, you know, blast from the past. I haven't really returned to this material.
I've never played those, but I recently got Monkey Island 1 and 2 as apps on my phone. Great.
Yeah, I had to install some kind
experience.
of MS-DOS simulator to play Monkey Island, and I got my kids to play Monkey Island, which I was very happy about.
Passing on the knowledge.
Yes, yes.
Beautiful. Thomas R., what is he saying? Dear Peter, simple but possibly tricky questions. Number 1, what are your remaining goals in chess?
Yeah, I did see that, and I was kind of dreading that for the past 5 hours. I'm not entirely sure. I still... why am I always answering this question honestly? I want to become world champion, Thomas.
Beautiful.
I have no idea why I always try to answer this question as if it's a real question. It's a mistake. I must do something about it.
Which brings us to number 2. If you know, for how long will you keep playing? I certainly don't want you to retire.
Thank you.
Others, that's his words, not mine. But others hinted at retirement around the age of 40, an age you start to approach. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I have no set date in mind. I think people who have said something about, I mean, I remember a Kramnik interview where he said something about playing until he's 40 and then gradually phasing it out. I think mainly you can't really just set an age and say, okay, I will quit the moment, you know, the clock strikes 12 on whatever the day may be. The moment you feel you're no longer competitive at a level at which you're kind of used to yourself being competitive at, you sort of begin seriously considering it. And I don't think I'm there yet, to be honest, even though a couple of my recent performances may have prompted this question.
Nah, I think you still got a couple good months in you.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, considering the fact that I'm, you know, starting a reasonably important tournament day after tomorrow.
Oh, Bilbao is coming up.
Yes.
Dr. Boki, next question. We have a fast pace here, we got a lot of questions. Dear Peter, what are the last 5 chess books you read or bought?
Well, that's a tricky one, because to my honest regret, at some point I almost gave up on chess literature for whatever reason. I thought, you know, the whole thing kind of moved online and you didn't really need books anymore. And I think that was a huge mistake, because as far as I could judge from reading the reviews and talking to people, we are living in a golden age of chess books, and there's a lot of really good stuff being produced. And I definitely bought the Avruch books on the Grunfeld, and they will be in the list. But it will be hard to name 5, because I think if I wanted to reach the magical number 5, I would really have to go back a long, long way. Some of the stuff I read recently I got as files, so that probably also doesn't count. But mainly the theoretical books, sadly. I think there's also a lot of very good stuff which is not strictly theory related, and I maybe should be.